Good afternoon, guys. My name is Brandon, and you guys know that I use a portable bandsaw to cut the majority of all of my material. It can be problematic when you're trying to cut a 45-degree angle on a piece of stock. Well, today we're going to make a jig that is going to simplify that whole process, and it's going to make cutting a 45 a breeze. So stick around.
This is all scrap metal, guys, that I'm using here, but the one thing that I will say is that that flat plate that I just tacked on, that's 3 inches wide. If I had to do this all over again, I would make that about 2 inches wide, and that'll become more apparent as we go. Now here what I'm doing is just putting 45s on the end of this material. Now cutting a 45 in that direction is super easy, and it's not too bad cutting it in the direction that I'm going to cut it now. Where it becomes real difficult is if you have to cut a 45 degrees somewhere within the center of the piece of material, meaning not near the end. And as you'll see, I'm not measuring out anything when I do this. I'm just basically putting a 45 on it and then putting a 45 in the opposite direction, so it almost makes like a pie shape, and that's the piece that I'm keeping. Now I'm just putting a bevel on everything, getting it all prepped up and ready to weld. Now this is where magnets really come in handy. Now this is a pretty important piece to your jig right here, so you're going to want to make sure that this is absolutely perfect or square to your jig. So I'm sliding my square on it and making sure that that edge is completely flush and perfect, and if it's not, you're going to have to make it perfect, because that will be the surface that your portable bandsaw will ride against. In other words, that surface there is actually the piece that determines how accurate your 45-degree cut is. And for all these welds, I'm using the Hobart Handler 140, C25 gas, and 30,000 solid wire. This tool is surprisingly enough very simple, but I've yet to see anyone build one. I came up with this idea after cutting a lot of 45 degrees angles, as you guys know, and I just kind of popped in my head and I said I'll give it a try. So this is still kind of a design concept. I'm going to continue to use it and improve it as I go. But as far as I know, I think I'm the only one that has come up with this. It's basically a miter box. They make them for wood, but I've never seen anybody make one for metal. Now that piece I'm welding on right there is actually going to be the material fence. So I'm welding it on the outside of it. You wouldn't want to weld it on the inside because your material won't sit flat and square against that fence. So now I'm putting 3 cuts through the fence, 1 on each angled side and 1 on the straight side, and those will be my guides for when I want to cut material.
Alright guys, here we go. So check this out. So now we take our jig that we just made. It's got that little piece on the bottom. That fits in the vise. You snug that up. Let's say I want to make a 45-degree cut on the top of this, okay? And let's say it needs to be right there, okay? So we take that mark, line it right up to the slice mark in our jig, clamp the piece in place, grab our saw, and away we go.
So this is why I say that bottom plate needs to be 2 inch, not 3. You see how the front of the saw is hanging up on that?
And there it is. And there's the cut it made. Let's say you wanted to cut that off straight.
So the proof of concept does work, and I'm sure I will continue to refine this as I go.
So you have this shoe on the portable bandsaw. Well, the reason this works so good is that that shoe now rides on that flat spot. So if you're doing a 45 in this direction, or even if you're doing a straight cut this direction, or you're doing a 45 in this direction, that shoe has a nice flat surface to ride against, which makes your cut nice and slick. So I think we're going to have a lot easier time cutting 45 degrees. And it's always fun when you can build something right from scratch that is going to make your time in the shop that much more enjoyable. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If this is something that you like, please don't forget to maybe smash that like button. And if you like this type of content, maybe consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day. Till the next one. See ya. Oh, and I'll leave a link about all the tools I'm using down below. Thanks, guys. See ya.